So if there's one thing that I love seeing destroyed more than Disney itself is Disney Star Wars. As you guys are very much aware, I do not like the current Disney Star Wars. I don't think anybody really does, to be honest with you. The ones that do are the ones who are finally happy they get to see themselves in a movie for some odd reason. I don't really know why that's so important for them to see themselves in a Star Wars film. But again, it is what it is. The box office now for Super Mario Brothers just dethroned Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Apparently, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, unfortunately, held a record, that record of which I am not sure. We're going to find out in this article. But apparently, they have just finally been dethroned from that record by good old Super Mario Brothers, the movie. So Star Wars is officially less popular than Super Mario Brothers is in the box office. It's absolutely insane. I didn't think I would ever be here to see this, to be honest with you. This is crazy stuff to me. So we're going to get into the article, guys. But of course, before we do, just consider giving this video a like because you will push us out into the YouTube algorithm if you do. So it says box office Super Mario Brothers movie jumps past Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Which record is next? It was bound to happen that the Super Mario Bros. Movie, a film that has exceeded any and all expectations since opening over Easter weekend, would reach $500 million before the release of Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, over the weekend, it has jumped past Star Wars Episode 4, The Rise of Skywalker, on the all-time domestic list. The Star Wars story was launched by George Lucas in 1977 with the original episode A New Hope. The ninth and presumably final chapter of the franchise opened before Christmas in 2019 with $177.4 million and eventually became the 17th highest grossing movie in North America, making $515.2 million domestically. Some might think Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker may have been hurt by the coup shutdown of movie theaters in the country, but by that point, March 2020, it was just pulling in money by dribs and drabs. Meanwhile, Super Mario Bros. Hit $500 million faster than other movies that opened in the same general range, which was $146 million, not including Wednesday and Thursday. For instance, Disney's live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast, which Mario has also passed, opened with $174.8 million in March 2017, but it still took more than 2 months before it hit $500 million. So the thing about this movie is that it came out the gate swinging and it kept swinging. The other movies, they came out the gate strong. They had great opening weekends, but they had to slowly reach their way to $500 million domestically. The difference is with Mario, it's only been in the movie theaters for what, a month now? That's it. It hit $500+ million domestically faster than almost any other movie that's ever came out before it. It is absolutely crazy numbers to think about, especially for an animated film, the likes of which we haven't seen one. I mean, Super Mario Brothers as a movie, when have you last seen that aside from the live action one? So of course, maybe you can say there was a lot of hype for it, considering there hasn't been one in a very long time. But I just think that the movie, the presentation, the entire, like all the stars aligned, right? So you got the presentations on point. The movie obviously is on point. It looks beautiful. It's got a great story, simple to the point. It gives the fans what they want. It's nostalgic. It makes you think about the games. All that stuff combined, and it has the fans backing. And once you have the backing of the fans, you realize just how much money is to be made. You got people going to go see this movie twice, 3 times, 4 times, taking their families, taking their friends. They want to see this as many times as possible because it's that good of a movie and it's that good of a time. That's the difference. It's a great time. It makes you feel like how you felt back in the day going to the movies. It's an exciting time to go there and have that experience, where people these days are like, well, these movies are so shitty, I'd rather just wait for them to go on streaming. You know, streaming kind of killed the box office in that aspect because a lot of people didn't have the backup that they do now. Streaming is a good backup for people that don't want to spend the money in theaters, but that's neither here nor there. It says same with Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, which opened with $158.4 million in July of 2008, but it still needed a couple more weeks than Super Mario Bros. To hit $500 million. Of course, other films that opened with more than $200 million in December, The Rise of Skywalker, opened below that mark, were able to get a bump from the boom normally seen by movie theaters in that week between Christmas and New Year's Eve. Well, that's another thing too. With Super Mario Brothers, it came out on Easter weekend, which a lot of people are trying to say, oh, that's why it did so well. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it could have came out on the same day any other weekend, and I think it would have did just as well, if not, if not better. Who really knows? But I think it definitely would have did just as well. I think the name and the movie itself is just that good, and the backing of the fans is just that strong to be able to carry this movie regardless of when it came out. Obviously, if it came out on a holiday, it would get a slight boost from that depending on the holiday, but it's not going to make or break it. It's not going to be like something where, oh, instead of $500 million plus domestically, it would have did $300 million domestically. You know what I mean? I think people would have took the time to go see it. People would have gave up the time. They would have found a way to go see it one way or another, especially once they heard how good it was. So I really don't think that argument holds up, but I know they're trying to make that as a comparison. So it says, so far, Marvel's Avengers Endgame remains the fastest to make $514 million in just 8 days, which, I mean, listen, that's Endgame, right? It's the culmination of a 10-year history of movies. So I would expect that there was so much hype behind that movie that, yeah, it's going to make that kind of money. It's just that kind of movie. It's like a once or twice in a lifetime cinematic experience. It says it made the most of that in its record-setting $357.1 million opening weekend. That's insane. That is crazy, crazy, crazy money to think about. However, Star Wars Episode 6, The Force Awakens, is still the highest-grossing movie domestically with a whopping $936.7 million freaking dollars, man. That is crazy, crazy money. $936 million domestically. Not even worldwide, people. Domestically. That is a crazy number, and I don't think Super Mario is going to hit that number. Here's the thing. Super Mario Brothers has completely decimated all of the competition, especially recent competition. It's going to be very difficult for it to stand up against movies like some of the Star Wars movies, the older Star Wars movies, or even like Endgame. Endgame had 10-year history of hype behind it, whereas Super Mario Brothers is just running off of a singular movie. It's a singular event. It didn't have the history of previous movies. Yeah, it had the history of games, obviously, and it had the history of just the IP in general, but still, compared to Endgame in the cinematic universe, people wanted to go to the theaters to experience Endgame, and people also want to go to the theaters to experience Super Mario Brothers. It's just not the same level of hype, though. It's really not fair to compare the two, but to consider that it's actually anywhere close is freaking nuts. Endgame making $514 million in 8 days, while that's amazing, the fact that Super Mario Brothers is getting close to that number just in a month is freaking incredible for this kind of a movie, but that's just in my opinion. It says, regardless, the Super Mario Bros. Shows no signs of stopping even as it drops to second place behind Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 this weekend. After The Rise of Skywalker, the domestic totals for Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, $533 million, and Dark Knight, $535 million, are the next domestic blockbusters for Super Mario Bros. To pass, followed by Jon Favreau's 2019 The Lion King remake. Dude, Super Mario Bros. Is about to pass those 3 movies. That's crazy. That is crazy. It's about to pass Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, The Dark Knight, which is a fantastic movie, and the freaking Lion King remake, which I was not a fan of the Lion King remake. But again, the Lion King remake had such a hype following it because, again, Lion King is one of people's favorite movies, and that was before people realized that Disney live-action remakes were going to be awfully terrible. That was kind of the beginning of it, so people were a little more ignorant back then. Now, not so much. So I think if Lion King released now, it would not get anywhere close to the numbers it got before, but that's just me, in my opinion. It says, coming up, there are no family-friendly PG movies until Disney's The Little Mermaid over Memorial Day weekend, so we'll have to see if Mario can get to $600 million domestically. Only 13 movies have ever achieved that benchmark, though 12 of them since 2009. Super Mario Bros. Is already only Universal's second movie to enter the top 20. Jurassic World is the other, breaking up the dominance of Disney and its various subsidiaries and joining The Dark Knight from Warner Brothers. And you know what? That's the takeaway from this entire story and this entire article. The fact that Disney is slowly but surely being dethroned from their top 10 or whatever list, it needs to happen. Disney needs to be taken down a peg from their top list, and there needs to be other studios taking over those tops because Disney is getting very complacent or has gotten very complacent. They're perfectly fine putting out subpar products without any effort whatsoever. They're so focused on bullshit, diversity, equity, and inclusion that they don't even care about the story that they're making or even readapting or whatever word you want to use, rebooting. They don't care. So now with this stuff, with a movie like Super Mario Brothers, if we could get another one like that, it will make Disney care. And competition always breeds better products for the consumers. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.